and welcome to Live with Holly. I'm Holly, and we are live. It is Wednesday. Hi! Strength training for burnout. Listen up. This one is huge. This one is powerful. If you are over the age of 33, 34, or if you are dealing with symptoms of chronic exhaustion, let's talk. Are we good?
Yeah.
Let's talk. So, as always, I have such an interesting experience on today's topic, which we'll talk about in a moment. The topic is strength training for burnout, okay? So here's the deal. It has become epidemic. There is this very specific kind of burnout that is affecting women globally. It's not just in the United States. I get phone calls every single week from many of you. They want to explore coaching. They want to explore some of my programs. I love to be on the phone with people. So I have a tendency to just get on the phone and assess people. And the past couple months, I've been noticing a lot more conversations around exhaustion beyond the daily I'm tired, right? What we're talking about today is not the sort of just like general fatigue that you feel at the end of the day. We're not talking about when your life has been busy and you're not sleeping well and you're not eating well, you feel tired. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is crippling, problematic exhaustion. The kind where your life is affected because of it. The kind where you can't just push through, even though you may try to push through. That is what we're talking about. Some people like to refer to this as adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. I don't want to get into the nuances of the definition of that, but what we are talking about is something along the lines where your energetic system is really knocked down, and despite all of your good efforts with fitness, nutrition, rest, hydration, all of that, there still is this different level of fatigue that's coming into play. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about, what you can do about it, but specifically, he's always causing trouble. My puppy, who is not so much of a puppy anymore, is causing mischief today. Oh, buddy, you're getting too big. You've gotten so big. Come up and say hi to everybody. Come here. Come up and say hi. Come up. Come up. Buckley. Up. Sorry. Instagram might catch a little bit of him. I'm trying to get him to come up and say hi, but he won't for Facebook. Maybe he will in a few minutes. But he's getting to be a big dog, you guys. Big dog. Holy cow. I don't know where he came from. Anyway, he's causing all kinds of trouble off camera. Say hi to Cindy and Kia.
Hi.
Okay, so before I continue, please say hello. Tell me why you're here. Are you new? Have you been here before? Tell me what's up. Does this conversation strike a chord for you? I would love to hear your personal experience with fatigue and exhaustion and how it shows up in your life. I also want to hear, here is a poll right now. Get your fingertips ready. If this conversation applies to you, I want you to tell me, why do you think you're so exhausted? Please type it in and tell me. Right now, if I say to you, if you were to say, yes, I'm battling chronic exhaustion, chronic tiredness, chronic fatigue, and I say to you, why do you think that is? I want you to type your answer in. I want to hear. Because a lot of times, I'll tell you right now, especially if you're a woman, I'm usually talking to women here. My conversation is very specifically geared towards women. So if you're a man here, awesome. I'm so happy to have you. Hello. But everything that I talk about really is geared towards the woman's experience in health and fitness and nutrition. So along those lines, this is why I said that. So if I say to you, take a moment, tap into your intuition. Why do you think you're tired? What do you think it's about? A lot of women are highly intuitive, and if you take a moment and give yourself the opportunity to tap in and be like, I think it's because XYZ. A lot of times, you're right. Now, I will caution you to say, for years and years and years and years, I had my answer to that question. And I think I was actually wrong. And it's only coming full circle in my life now this year that for the first time ever, I'm really starting to examine why is exhaustion such a chronic conversation in my life? And the answer isn't what I thought what I've been thinking it was all these years. And so we're going to be talking about that. But at first, I would love to hear from you guys. Who's here? Have you answered that question? Share your thoughts. Tell me what's up. I am drinking licorice root tea today, people. And for those of you guys that don't know, licorice root tea is an adaptogenic herb that is so good for your adrenal glands because what it does is it extends the life of cortisol in your body. In a good way. I know that might sound like it's not a good thing, but what it does is it actually makes your cortisol hardier in the hours when your cortisol tends to drop. So what happens for me around noon or 1 every day, my cortisol bottoms out. And so what licorice root tea does is it helps the cortisol that you do have a longer shelf life, basically. And so I am also a B blood type. B blood types are highly, highly reactive in a good way to licorice root tea. So when I drink this disgusting stuff, I feel fantastic. Talk to me.
We have Karen Capara with us, Anita Webb, Fran Bass, Fernanda Hirata said, your blouse, loved it. She also said she's not eating right. And then Karen Capara said, hello chicks, hello.
Hi.
Fran Bass, I have experienced this particular thing. I think I had fatigue because I overtrained.
Okay.
Not enough, hold on, I can't read it for some reason. It always does that. I have to come back to it. Not enough sleep and not listening to my body probably. And then over here on Instagram, we just have a bunch of some thumbs ups. We have Regina with us.
Yay.
Anita here as well.
Hi.
This girl.
Hi.
Vicky Hope Nash.
Hi.
Nikki's with us.
Yay.
Haven't seen you in a while, Nikki. And plenty of other women that are always with us.
Okay.
Beauty Geekster.
Any comments?
Healthy
Hi.
Geekster. No comments. No.
Wait. We have a beauty geekster and a healthy geekster?
She has Healthy Geekster
and beauty geekster.
It's Kayla.
Okay, got it. Interesting, because as soon as she said that, I was like, right, healthy and beauty. Same person.
Yes.
I gotcha. I'm on you now. So good. So what we are talking about specifically, we're going to talk for a couple minutes right now about this conversation around exhaustion and what it is. We're then going to talk about a specific angle on strength training and this exhaustion. And then I'm going to tell you how to use strength training during phases of exhaustion to actually get you out of exhaustion. It's a double-edged sword. Sword. Say that 5 times. Sword.
Sword.
Say sword.
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 Sword. How do you say it?
Sword.
Sword. Right? I used to say sword. It's actually a sword. But I think that might be one of those interesting grammatical things that you're not really supposed to say sword, but I do. Sword? Say it.
Sword.
You say sword.
I say
Sometimes, like I'll bounce between the two, like depending.
Cindy says sword.
If I feel like if I'm speaking fast, then I'll say
Sword.
sword. But like
I've always said sword, but lately
sword.
I say sword. Anyway, back on topic. How do you say sword?
Back to strength training.
Back to strength training and a double-edged sword. Okay, so, okay. Your adrenal glands are these cute little triangular babies that sit on top of your kidneys. They look like a little triangle, okay? They're very delicate. They are the hub for the production of cortisol as well as a bunch of other hormones and secondary sex hormones. So a lot of good juju gets produced by these little guys. You got 2 of them, okay? But the main hormone that we consider the adrenal glands in relation to the adrenal glands is cortisol. Cortisol is interesting because thanks to popular media, it's gotten a bad rap. We've now come to think that cortisol is this bad hormone and you don't want it. And ooh, cortisol, do everything you should to bring your cortisol down. That's actually not true. Cortisol is the hormone that revs you up, that jives you up. It's what we call the fight or flight hormone. So in times of stress in the past, when the dinosaur was chasing you, your cortisol would shunt out this hormone to make you alert, to make you energized, to make you move faster, to make you think faster. It's a brilliant hormone, by the way. And it shunts out when you need to rise to the occasion. In modern day, this could be if you're driving along and all of a sudden you have to stop yourself from a car accident. Cortisol shunts out to bring alertness to you. Or if you're at work and you have a big meeting or you need to make a speech and you're scared, cortisol shunts out to rise you to the occasion. Exercise bumps up your cortisol. It helps you to rise to the occasion. Caffeine does so as well. The problem is we're now living in this state where we are emotionally and environmentally putting ourselves in situations where we keep shunting out a lot of cortisol. We're on alert all the time now, especially if you live a busy life, which I think we all do. No matter what you do for a living, we all, what is that?
I don't know, it sounds really creepy.
Doesn't it sound so creepy?
Yeah.
Is it a plane going over?
What
Is that so creepy sounding? Is it a plane?
That's a plane.
Plane coupled with somebody yelling outside. It's just creepy
Yeah.
sounding, right? Anyway, especially if you live, in a city or, the truth is we all feel the pressure and the demands of time. And so we all are just on alert all the time. So what happens is those little baby adrenal glands are shunting out cortisol all the time. Shunt, push it out, push it out, push it out. Eventually, they have to retract. So whenever there's a time in the day when you kind of settle down, they retract, okay? And your cortisol comes down. So here's the deal. Cortisol is not a bad thing. We want cortisol because it energizes us. It rises naturally in the morning and we want it to because it makes us alert. The key is that we want our adrenal glands to be healthy so that they can manage the cortisol going out so that it's not going out in such huge shunts. And so that when it recoils, it's not coughed out, it's not pooped out because it sent out all its cortisol and now it has to recover and rebuild and take a nap so that it can come back with the cortisol that it needs for you for your 4 o'clock meeting, okay? So what has happened for whatever reason, we're now in the epidemic and the age where many of us, our little adrenal glands are chronically exhausted. They're worn out because they're constantly being asked to do stuff, but we're not giving them enough time to really rest and recoil. And there are certain proactive things you can do to support your adrenal glands so that they can rest and recoil, but probably more effective, I'm gonna scratch that, not probably, definitively more effective is to not put them in a place where you have to nurture them back to health. And that is where your actions are actually going to be more substantial. It's the behaviors that you're taking that are causing your adrenal glands to shunt out cortisol. We're gonna talk about that because what happens is there's certain activities and behaviors in a day that are pooping out your adrenal glands. And if we can start cutting back on how much you're pooping them out, they don't need quite so much time for recoil. What we're also seeing these days is that for women especially over the age of 40, maybe even 42, because your sex hormones are starting to get a little unstable, there is a connection between your hormones changing. Is that for me or is that you? Okay, that's just for you?
Oh yeah, sorry.
It looked intentional.
You said to look at you when I do that.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. I didn't think so, but then you did it so deliberately that I was like, okay. It's all right. It's Cindy's off-camera cues for me, and sometimes I misread her cues. I misread this one. It's okay. We're going to talk about some of those behaviors that you can curb so that you're not shunting out your adrenals. I know what I was talking about. There is a very interesting, really it's a trifecta that's happening, which is after the age of 40, when your hormones start to fluctuate, we start to see an even more pronounced problem with the adrenal glands. Now, I'm not sure yet if that is because hormones are reducing and therefore adrenals also lose some of their juice. So the adrenals are also the site of production for secondary sex hormones. So some estrogen and other progesterone, testosterone, some other hormones are produced in the adrenal glands. And so when we have a reduction let's just call it a change in our hormones after 40, there often seems to be even more trouble with the adrenals. And then the trifecta is those two things combined are also causing problems with the thyroid. And so that's why, for some of you, this is really going to strike a chord, but that is why it's what I call the trifecta, because most women are trying to say, which one is it? I'm suffering, I'm feeling symptoms because my hormones are off because I'm 48, okay? Or some women call me and they're like, I know that these symptoms I'm feeling are because my thyroid is down. Some women feel it's their adrenals. I actually think it's the trifecta of all three, and we're not sure which is feeding into what, but we're pretty certain that what it is it's fluctuating sex hormones combined with a lifelong of fatigued adrenals. And that's a 1-2 punch to this energetic system. Your adrenals power your thyroid. So if the adrenals are kind of on low gear, they can't power your thyroid. And so therefore, I don't want to get too much in the medical conversation here, but a lot of people are starting to look at and treat and medicate the thyroid. But if we're not fixing the adrenals, which are powering the thyroid, simply taking a thyroid medication is definitely going to make you feel better, and it could help. But if the real problem is those adrenals are exhausted and they're not powering the thyroid, then really you just have a Band-Aid in effect. Now listen guys, listen up, because I know this strikes home for a lot of people. I am not a medical doctor. I am not giving medical advice here. I am highly educated. I'm highly knowledgeable on this topic, both from medical journals and research and my own education, legitimate education, but also from personal experience. So, but you guys do need to know that, and I do need to make that disclaimer. So, but we do know that exercise very much plays into this picture of adrenals, because here's truth bomb number 1 for the day. We know that exercise plays into this conversation with adrenals because truth bomb number 1 is that exercise can either serve as a battery to boost and recharge your immune system and your adrenal glands, or it can tax your adrenal system and your immune system so that it's actually taxing. And it depends on the time, the duration, the intensity, and the kind of exercise that you're doing. So you need to be using exercise. It works like plugging a rechargeable battery into the wall is what exercise is for your adrenal glands, provided you're doing the right kind of exercise to really support those little baby glands. If you're going hard and fast and high intensity, that is very taxing on the adrenal glands. And so exercise is a critical component to keeping your adrenals happy, keeping your hormones balanced, and therefore those two things provide the foundation for a healthy thyroid. And so what we're talking about today is specifically how to use exercise depending on where you are in this conversation of adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue, and just burnout and exhaustion in general. So the first thing is, if you are in this phase, okay, of feeling coughed out, pooped out, chronically exhausted, you might think you can't exercise. You might think that you don't have the energy to exercise. If you are currently in the phase of exhaustion, okay, you're going to be led to think, you might intuitively think that you shouldn't be exercising. You're exhausted. How could you exercise, right? Or when you're really, really fatigued, how could I possibly find the energy for exercise? That is actually what you absolutely must do. If you are in a phase of just exhaustion, you have to be engaging in some activity. We will define exactly what that looks like. But it's critical that you're getting some physical activity and yes, some strength training, because it is what recharges the adrenal glands. It's what's going to make you feel better. So if you're in that phase right now, step number one is you've got to get off the couch at the end of the day. Now, it might be a 10-minute comfortable stroll around your neighborhood in fresh air. It might be 10 minutes on the treadmill. It might be anything. It could be 15 minutes of gentle stretching on your living room floor, okay? Gentle, supportive, nurturing, uplifting exercise that makes you feel good is what you need to be going after 3 to 4 times per week. And the length of the workout should be dependent on when you start to fatigue, because you don't want your exercise to be fatiguing in this stage. Now, at other times in your life, when you're not in a phase of exhaustion, we want exercise to be fatiguing. So if you're healthy, if you're energized, if your hormones are balanced, if you're good, we need exercise to be taxing and exhausting, because that's how you get bigger, better, stronger, and leaner. But during times of exhaustion, we don't want it to be taxing. So all of your workouts, no matter what the form is, all of your workouts really should be good. You should do these workouts and feel awesome after. They should build you up. They should give you energy. They should make you better until your energy is back and you're feeling awesome. I'm going to pause for a moment. Questions and comments?
Nikki said, sorry. She said she hasn't been able to because she goes, I know my internet is horrible. Lives don't always play, and then I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
Jennifer G said, hello, late, sorry. It's
Hi.
okay.
Hi,
Jennifer G
welcome.
said, adding chronic pain and pain flares and episodes equals bad mix.
Yes, and that can be related to cortisol as well and adrenals. If your adrenals are so overtaxed, they are ultimately producing what we call low total cortisol, meaning the total amount that you're producing during the day might be down, and that can cause aches, pains, and just kind of like general pain that you might be feeling. So this could be related for you.
And then over here on Facebook still, then we have another one on Instagram. Nikki said, I feel like I feel like it's that I'm 40, PCOS, and will love my thyroid check.
This is Nikki?
check. Yeah.
Nikki, you have PCOS? Have we talked about this?
Lots of women in my family have thyroid issues.
Interesting. Have we talked about you and PCOS? I don't know if we've talked about this. That adds kind of like a new element to our conversation. Mm-hmm. Because yes, there is a high correlation too here with thyroid, PCOS, adrenals, exhaustion, all of that.
Healthy Geekster, I have PCOS.
Okay.
My DHA is high, so I constantly have
DHEA?
DHEA
Is high.
is
Okay.
high, so I constantly have to think about my adrenals.
Yep.
And then we have a
Interesting.
hello, how are you, from Noor Mustafa. Hello. Woods Girl 5 said, thank you so much for this extremely important topic.
Yeah.
I'm 50 and I just can't I can't get restorative sleep.
Yeah.
I'm always supporting my thyroid and adrenals
Yeah.
with supplements and
Good.
essential oils.
Good. And Woods Girl, are you addressing and getting your hormones checked? So it's this trifecta that we're talking about, okay? Because the hormones play in, depending on if your hormones are off, play into fueling the adrenals and the thyroid. And one of the most common things is we see that the sleep gets affected at night. And so we want to look at the adrenals. Is it adrenals? Usually adrenals and hormones, unless pituitary is in the mix there. But for most people, it's the adrenals and hormones, which kind of the combination, the intersection of those two functions are what start to change how you sleep at night. Could also be melatonin. If your melatonin production has gone down, it could also be melatonin.
Boatman said I get to watch this as a meal prep, and
Woo-hoo!
he also asked, does this go for men and women?
100% for sure. What we're talking about today is adrenal fatigue and exhaustion, and absolutely applies for men too. However, we don't tend to see it nearly as much in men because you've got testosterone to help you. You also don't get the extreme hormone fluctuations in your 40s that women get. And so it's related to hormone fluctuations tend to feed into and exacerbate adrenal issues. And those two things together exacerbate thyroid issues. And so it appears that that is why it's more predominant in women than it is for men. But absolutely, it can apply for men too. And you still want to take care of your adrenal glands. And that is a big reason why stress management practices are critical, right? So, I know for years and years and years, I was like, I would really kind of just like brush off this conversation of stress management and kind of thought that like I was getting my stress management at night when I slept. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually having to really employ real stress management actions every single day to keep my stress in check because I'm feeling so much of the biological fallout from it. So yes, it applies to men, but it usually tends to be a little bit of a different conversation.
That's it.
Awesome. So,
You said thank you.
okay, awesome. So specifically what we're talking about today, especially if you're just chiming in, please say hello. If you're watching quietly and anonymously, I hope you'll say hi. Over the years, we've really developed real relationships with many of you who tune in each week, who chime in and say hello. And I know some of you I've had to really kind of pull it out of you. But what's so cool is if I sit down now, we've got so many people that we know virtually that we've gotten to know because we're visiting here every single week. And so if you're watching anonymously and quietly, I hope that you'll say hi. I hope you'll introduce yourself or share your thoughts or share your experience, because really for real, the reason I'm here is community, is to have a conversation with you. I want to hear from you. I want to be able to support those of you guys that are here. It's why I take questions. I see this weekly video session as one of the ways that I serve you guys for free. This is how you have free access to a bona fide expert. I'm here to hear you. I'm here to answer your questions. And that is why I'm here every single Wednesday live on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're tuning in, please know, say hi, jump into the mix with us. You'll meet some other people, you'll make some friends, and if you have questions and comments on this topic, you can go ahead and punch them in now and at any time. Cindy is always behind the camera. She's always kind of keeping an eye out for what's going on that side of the phones. And as soon as I stop talking, she'll share your questions and comments with me, because it really helps me produce content for you guys when I can hear what's going on for you, when I can hear what topics and issues you guys are working with out there in the real world. So by you sharing with me your current experience, I'm able to come up with new blog articles or new free resources or even new free challenges. I'm looking at wanting to do some kind of a cool, fun, free challenge here in the fall. And I'm kind of trying to decide, what should the topic be? And so I get a lot of my information when you guys share your thoughts with me. So always feel free. This is an open forum. You will never be judged. You could never ask a stupid question. There are no stupid questions in my domain at all whatsoever. So I hope that you will feel free to say hi.
Nikki
Yeah.
said, strength training is so much of my stress management.
Yeah.
Janet said, hi, I'm here, LOL.
I'm so glad
just
you're
taking
here.
it all in.
Good. Yay.
And then-
It's funny. I had a feeling you were here. Or did you say she was here?
I don't think I said she was here.
You didn't?
I don't
I knew
think so.
Janet, I knew you were here. I just felt you.
Ash08807 said, does cortisol increase the basal metabolic rate?
Ooh, that's a great question. That's such a good question. So yes, absolutely it does. It's hard to measure though. So when we do research in the lab and we've got really strict parameters, yes, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why if you have a really high stress job or a high stress lifestyle, or if for some reason your cortisol is always high, you need to eat more, because yes, it does. It increases the basal metabolic rate, okay? albeit temporary. So it's not that it's raising your BMR 24/7. It's raising it temporarily while the cortisol is up, okay? So what it's doing is it's increasing your need for calories technically. Absolutely. The interesting thing also to note though is this. This is really critical. For those of you guys that do tend to have high cortisol or times of elevated cortisol, what's critical for you to know is that cortisol brings down blood sugar. So it destabilizes your blood sugar, ultimately throwing off how your body manages carbohydrates. And so if your cortisol is high, technically you need to be eating more carbohydrates in your diet, which is one of the problems that I have with low carb and ketogenic lifestyle, because eating low carb is stressful on your system. That stress on your system causes you to need more carbohydrates, but you're not eating them. And that's one of the reasons why so many women who have been following ketogenic or low carb lifestyle for 2 or 3 years end up with adrenal burnout. I'm gonna repeat that because I get the phone calls from many of you in your 50s. So if you're in your 40s and you love this low carb lifestyle, if you love this whole ketogenic thing and you're committed to it 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, chances are what happens is you end up with adrenal exhaustion. And then you're really looking at some serious hormone problems. I get those phone calls from the women 48 and up who are now facing hormone issues, adrenal issues, thyroid issues from 4 and 5 years of doing low carb eating. It's so stressful on your adrenal glands. Yes, many men can get away with it. Please understand, when we're talking about low carb and ketogenic, it's a very different experiment that's happening inside of a woman's body as compared to your male counterpart. A lot of men do really well on ketogenic and low carb diets. Some women, actually, a lot of women do really well on it in the short term. The problem is when you turn it into a lifestyle and you do it for 2 years or 3 years or 8 years, it's so taxing on your adrenal glands, especially if you're a woman, because we tend to be more, our lifestyles are such that we tend to lean on our adrenals even more because we tend to be more emotional. And the adrenal glands are particularly sensitive to times of high emotion. And so if you have had some episodes in your life in the past 4 or 5 years that were very emotionally traumatic. And keep in mind, emotionally traumatic is dependent on how you define traumatic, okay? It doesn't have to be the world's definition of a trauma. But if you have had some very heavy and substantial emotional grief in the past 4 or 5 years, that is extremely taxing on the adrenal glands. And if you couple that with a low carb lifestyle and over dependence on caffeine, kabam, you will find yourself having trouble. My emotional trauma, which I recently identified, was when I wrote my first book, Live to Get Lean. So when I wrote my book, up until then, I had been a personal trainer. I wasn't writing blogs.
You were.
I don't think I was.
You were.
Was I writing blogs?
You were writing blogs. You've always been writing blogs.
I don't think so. Not prior to Live to Get Lean. I was still training people. It wasn't until Jill got me writing blogs. Really? Am I losing my memory as well?
I think so.
I don't know. Let's look at it.
You didn't do them as
I
often.
wasn't doing them weekly.
You didn't have them weekly, but you did do blogs.
Right. And I only had Holly Perkins. I didn't have Women's Strength Nation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but prior to writing my book, if I dabbled in blogs, I certainly did not have any skills as a writer. I was mostly just a personal trainer all day long, right? So I got this opportunity to write the book, which was, a legit book. I mean, it was 200-300 pages. I mean, for those of you guys that don't have my book, you need to get it. It's an incredible book. 286?
274.
274? How about that for memory? 274, I said 286, right? I mean, it's a substantial enough book. I wrote all this. I didn't have no copywriter. I didn't have no ghostwriter. I wrote every single word in this book, guys. When the publishers came to me with the book deal, they were like, you got to write it in 2 months. 2 months. Who writes a book in 2 months? Like, I don't even know published authors that write a book in 2 months. But me, being the naive overachiever that I am, I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I put myself in a situation to write that book in 2 months. I couldn't do it, but I got it done in 3 months. And every single one of those days, pretty much every single one of those hours for those 3 months was horribly stressful. It was terribly stressful. And I over-caffeinated, I wasn't eating right, I wasn't taking care of myself, I was working out hard, and I had the stress of writing this book. I consider that an emotional trauma because it was so taxing to my adrenal system. And I now believe that some of the burnout that I'm feeling right now is actually fallout from that 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I think, maybe 5. Ugh, hope it's not that long ago. But yes, I do think it was 5 years ago. That's so scary because I had just moved in here. I think that was published in 2014, which means I wrote it in 2013.
Wait.
Yeah, I wrote it the year before it was published, so I think 2013.
2015.
15! Yes! That means I wrote it 4 years ago. That makes me feel so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank God.
April
for that.
2015.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God it was only 4 years ago. The things that I've accomplished in 4 years, people. Anyway, back on topic. So, I'm pretty certain that the symptoms of burnout that I'm feeling right now trace back to that episode. So my point here is to say, if you have had something that was very stressful and very taxing, and specifically very stressful emotionally, that can cause an injury of sorts on your adrenal glands, and that can take some time to come back from. So, as I started talking about at the top of the hour, I want to shift gears a little bit here. The best way to keep your adrenals happy and healthy is to reduce those big stressors. That's the best way, is to keep yourself out of stress. And that is going to mean different things for different people. So for me, I have or had a lot of physiological stress from my workouts and from years past being low carb. So the harder you work out after 40, the more, low carb that you eat, that is physiological, biological, physical stress on your adrenal system. I had a lot of that. I also had a lot of emotional stress on my adrenal system. And then there's the way that we live and we perceive the world. How you navigate your days in your world could be the thing that's causing a lot of stress on your adrenal glands. And so therefore, lifting off some of this pressure that we put on the adrenal glands may come down to, how are you viewing the world? Because you could be really elevating your stress simply by your perspectives on the world. And that is something that I'm having to address in my own personal life right now. I'm really having to rewrite how I view the world, because the way that I've been viewing the world has been incredibly stressful to my adrenal system. So the best thing you can do is lift off some of the things that are causing you real stress in your life, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, and environmental stress coming from things like toxins in your environment. That is also a source of stress on the adrenal glands. So that is the best way to support and protect your adrenal glands. Okay, we can talk about that for a moment because I know we have a question. And then we're going to talk about all of the proactive things that you can do to get yourself out of a phase of burnout. One of those things is absolutely strength training. And we need to talk about what that strength training looks like, because you have to be doing the right kind of strength training. Questions and comments?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to pull that up right now.
Yep, take your time. Oh, good.
Slow.
Any questions, guys?
Tea.
Cindy's keeping an eye on questions. Please feel free to share your questions and comments. I would love to hear from you. Does this resonate? Does this make sense? Does this feel familiar in your life? You can also just tell me you like my shirt, or you like my hair pulled back, because I don't wear my hair pulled back anymore.
Yeah, you do. Okay, so we have a question here from Fernanda Hirata.
Yeah.
I'm just having a little bit of trouble bringing it up. It's taking a little bit.
Oh, on
There
Facebook?
we
Okay.
go. We got it. Okay, so she said, well, first question, she
Yes.
has two questions. First
Okay.
one was, does it bring depression?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
And then she also said, I had a very hard year and I got really tired and sick this summer, and now I understand pretty well what happened. We have demonetized carbs so badly,
Yeah.
and we don't really realize how our bodies respond.
Totally.
Great talk, Holly. It's been so helpful.
Amazing. Tell me her handle again. Fernanda.
Fernanda Hirata.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to talk about that for 1 second before you share more comments. Hold for me. That's another thing, guys. Sicknesses can also be a major injury to your adrenal glands. So if you all of a sudden get a major sickness like mono or some kind of a viral infection where you're down for 2 weeks, that can also overtax your adrenal glands. That is a physical, environmental stress as well on the adrenal glands. And so the question that was asked is depression linked to this? 100%. I'm starting to believe that that is part of the conversation for myself. I suspect that I've got I know for certain that I've got adrenal insufficiencies because I just had some blood work done and my total cortisol production is down, even though I have high cortisol. Think about that for a second, right? My body is shunting out high cortisol, but my total cortisol production is low. And I suspect that that could be part of the equation around my own personal form of depression. And so yes, if you are battling depression, I suspect I'm going to do another conversation around depression because I'm learning more and more and more about some of the physical things that can be causing symptoms of depression. It's really important to remember, guys, that we now live in a world where depression is its own disease. But the truth is, even your psychiatrist or your psychologist will tell you depression isn't a thing. It's a collection of symptoms. And so what you have is you have a bunch of symptoms that show up as depression. It's not that you have depression, right? You have a collection of symptoms that we call depression. And so there could be hormonal, biological factors, organ factors at play that are causing your version and your color of depression. And yes, adrenal insufficiencies 100% are absolutely linked to the symptoms of depression. So is thyroid issues, particularly hypothyroidism, is also linked to depression. So what I'm more on this later, I'm going to be working with a new doctor next month, but more on this later, what I suspect is going on for me is number one, imbalanced hormones that are biological in nature. They are born with me. They are part of just who I am as opposed to my lifestyle. Number two, causing adrenal insufficiencies. Number three, causing mild hypothyroidism. Those three things together can cause depression because I don't have low serotonin. I've had it measured. I no longer have digestive issues. I got that fixed last year. I don't have mood issues. I'm not emotionally depressed. I'm physiologically and biologically depressed. I've got the physical symptoms of depression. I don't have the mental and emotional symptoms of depression. And so it looks like there could be some of these biochemistry things at play. So for those of you guys too that are struggling with colors of depression and you don't know how to treat it, and if you feel like there's a part of you that's like, but I'm not a depressed person, but I've got all these symptoms, I would encourage you to start to look at some of the things like what we're talking about today: adrenal health, hormone balance, and thyroid. Questions and comments?
Hubby Geekster.
Yes.
I try to avoid harsh chemicals and endocrine.
Is that in our house?
No, that's somewhere else.
Okay.
I try to avoid harsh chemicals.
Good job.
Endocrine disruptors.
Yes,
but
good.
it's hard.
It's so hard, guys. That's a big one, especially for us sensitive ladies. All of the stuff that's in our world really can tax your adrenals.
Ash0807 said, how would people know about the malfunctioning of adrenals, whether hypo or hyper secretion?
Okay, any other questions? That's it. Okay, great question. So that's an easy answer. This is the mistake I made for years. For years, I was self-diagnosing, okay? This goes back to my 20s. But you can, to some degree, self-diagnose adrenal issues, but it's a little murky. The best thing to do is to go seek out a good doctor. There's two ways that we test what's going on with the adrenal glands. One is a saliva test and one is a blood test. In my opinion, you want to be looking at both because each has its own, and actually you can also test it through urine. I've recently tested saliva and urine. Years ago, I tested blood. I'm going to be testing blood again in November. So it's actually critical to test all of it because you're actually able to get your numbers on what are your adrenals doing. The primary hormone of the adrenals is DHEA, and we're able to measure that to see how are the hormones working. We're also able to measure cortisol, both total cortisol in a given day and how you are regulating throughout the day, because it's possible to have normal cortisol levels but be low total cortisol in a day, and all incarnations of that are the same. So for me, I actually have high cortisol because I'm stressing myself out all day long, but my total daily cortisol production is low. And you can have all kinds of variations on that, and they can measure that. So if you suspect, the number one way to flag adrenal insufficiency and adrenal exhaustion, okay, which is different than adrenal overproduction, is this feeling that you're tired but wired. It's the feeling of like you are exhausted but you can't relax. That is the classic telltale symptom of adrenal insufficiency. And so years past, I would notice it mostly at night. I would be deathly exhausted, but yet I couldn't relax. And so therefore I wasn't getting restful, deep, and restorative sleep. Another symptom of adrenal fatigue and exhaustion is like feeling you have bugs on you. Like you're itchy, you're fussy. There's so much weird noise going on outside today, right? Doesn't it sound like there's like something going on out there?
I'm gonna go check.
Yeah, go check. I'm sure Kia would be on top of it, but if she has her headphones on, she might not know. So also like feeling creepy, crawly, itchy bugs, but you know it's not itchy bugs is also another symptom. Also being stressed out by everything, being stressed out by even minor decisions. This is me. If I don't keep these things in check, I find myself getting stressed out by what I'm gonna make for dinner, or stressed out because I need to do a load of laundry. Like silly little things that shouldn't stress you out, right? Would stress me out. Like, is the Uber gonna arrive on time? Would stress me out. And so that is also another symptom of your adrenals are on the fritz, basically. So your cortisol is in a place not where you want it to be. So I want to jump ahead in a moment and then I'll come back to more questions. These are great, great questions. But really what I want to talk about is how strength training helps in this picture and what and how to do it. So first and foremost, as I said, if you're in a phase of feeling exhausted, burned out, where you know that you're just like pooped, you don't want to be going in for hard, heavy, or stressful workouts of any kind, but specifically strength workouts. You also don't want them to be particularly lengthy, okay? So even if it's a low intensity workout, you don't want a 2-hour lower intensity workout because length of time is also very stressful. So it's time, it's intensity, and it's the kind of exercise. So you will find certain activities are more supportive. For me right now, cardio and yoga feel very supportive. My strength workouts are feeling very problematic. Therefore, what I have to do is make sure that the nature of my strength workouts is a certain way. You can do that and I'll share with you in a moment. So if you're in an episode of feeling burned out, clearly I am, what's important is that number one, we're gonna talk specifically about strength training right now. One, your strength workouts are less than 60 minutes in length. Number two, The exercises that you're performing aren't super complicated. This isn't the time to be doing a clean and snatch. This isn't a time to be doing a kettlebell swing or burpees, okay? You want simpler movements, leg extension, leg curl, leg press, bicep curl, shoulder, simpler biomechanical movements, patterns basically. The third thing is you don't want to be lifting super heavy weights, even if you don't think they're heavy. So what happens is with the adrenal glands, when you're in a set and you're exerting, okay, it's the exertion during a set is very taxing on the adrenal glands, even if you think that weight is not heavy. So you might need to scale back on your weight loads far below what you're actually capable of, because you don't want what we call intra-set exertion. You don't want your exertion in that 1 minute of your goblet squat to be too exerting, because that's very taxing on the adrenal glands and it's taxing on your hormonal system. And so that's, again, this 1-2 punch that then handicaps the thyroid, okay? So you do want to be strength training during times of fatigue, exhaustion, and burnout. You do want to be strength training because it helps to improve all of these things. If you do it the right way, the way that I just described, it really helps to improve your energy. And when you improve your energy, you're supporting your adrenal glands. It does help to bring optimal balance to all of your hormones. So you do want to be strength training. It is a form of stress reduction. Nikki shared here on Facebook earlier that her strength workouts are her stress management. It's what keeps her feeling good. So they serve as stress management. You absolutely want to be doing some strength training. You just want to make sure that you adjust the intensity, the duration, and the frequency of your strength workouts so that when you leave the gym, you feel good and you feel better, okay? Frequency, like I said at the top of the session, anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week or less, no more. The duration is 60 minutes or less, and the intensity really should be almost kind of light, but you should kind of feel yourself come alive during your strength workout. You should find yourself gaining energy and momentum during that strength workout, and you should be leaving your strength workout feeling better. If you do that, that is a perfect remedy that's going to help you get out of a phase of fatigue and exhaustion. So it's critical that if you're in it, you do have a self-talk session where you say to yourself, I'm so exhausted, how could I ever exercise? Lack of exercise is going to make it worse. The thing is to find the activities that do feel good, that you can do, that aren't exhausting. And that could be leisurely walking around your neighborhood. It could be the stationary bicycle at a very low level for 10 minutes. It could be yoga, Tai Chi. It could be lower intensity dance class. Whatever feels good for you, whatever is going to make you feel good about life again is exactly the kind of exercise you should be doing. Questions and comments?
Liz Girls said, I have to stop doing 5, 3, 1. Too hard on me.
Yeah.
10
reps
sure. is the perfect range.
Yes, for sure.
Healthy Geekster said, I'm so glad that you're saying this because I do this, but I never had validation.
Yeah.
So happy.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, guys, in times of burnout, you do want to listen to your body. Okay, so if you've been with me for a while, you know that I'm actually not a fan of intuitive eating or intuitive training, because in a healthy, non-burned out body, that's not the way to go. But during times of burnout, you do want to listen to your body. You do want to say, is this making me feel better or not? And you want to go with it. All the other times, you don't want to do that because your body is sneaky and you'll never be able to challenge yourself enough to get fitter, faster, stronger. So the conversation today, just so you know, if you're just chiming in, thank you very much. If you're just chiming in, is very specifically around strength training during times of burnout and fatigue. And the laws and the rules in this situation are different than where you're going to be in a few months when your energy is back and you feel good and you feel energized. So on today's blog today, you must check it. I shared specifically a strength training workout for adrenal burnout. So make sure you check out the blog ASAP, hollyperkins.com/blog. We will put a direct link here in the feed and in the description of today's video feed on Live with Holly. On Instagram, just go to the link in my bio and you're going to see a tab that says blog. It will take you to today's blog and you can see the very specific strength workout that you can use during times when you are pooped. It's a great workout. Make sure you check out the blog. And then next Tuesday, we have a really great email coming out at you. If you're not already on my email list, you want to make sure that you get on my email list because I share exclusive information and content in my free email that goes out every Tuesday. Make sure you get on my free email update list so that you can get the best of the best. Yesterday in the email, I shared 5 nutritional strategies to support times of burnout. And I can't reveal those to you here because then it wouldn't be exclusive content. So the exclusive content is only for my email subscribers. You can sign up to receive my emails by clicking the sign up button on Facebook, by clicking the link in my bio on Instagram that says free emails. It's pretty straightforward. My emails are always content focused, very rarely marketing focused, and I hope you'll be on my list. I would love to see you there. And any other final questions and comments? Awesome, guys. I hope this was relevant. If you're watching this in playback on Facebook, share your comments, share it around. And by the way, on that note, guys, I am really excited about my growing community. We continue to bring in more and more unbelievable women into this circle. If you know of some other women in your world and in your life that could use this information, will you please share me with them? Forward one of my emails to them. Tag them on one of my posts. Share this Facebook Live video on your own Facebook page. I want to grow this community because the more we are, the more we're empowered. The bigger my community, the more I'm able to hear from you so that I can share relevant information that helps you. And I know we all want our sisters and our girlfriends and our mothers and our daughters to be healthier and better. So if you can think of anybody that would really like this conversation, please share me. I will be here next Wednesday, as always, live on Instagram and Facebook at 4 p.m. Eastern. You would think a year and a half later.
I know. Even I still
2 years later.
I'm like, what?
Oh, dear. I'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Have a good Wednesday.